Hi Sam, so welcome to Plus 24's Eat Sleep Business, our weekly podcast. Quite enjoying doing the podcast and getting some good feedback from the podcasts. I had a few people message me this week saying that they got some good value out of last week's podcast. So I am going to get better at sharing it on my own profile, though. I've not been doing that as effectively as I should do. And some of the listeners today will know, or whenever you're listening to it, and that's the beauty of podcasts, isn't it? It's like you just do it when you need to or when you want to. You know, driving, I think, is a big one for podcasts. I listen to a lot of audio books, but I'm going to start listening to more podcasts now whilst on the move. And I think people will start to be driving a little bit more, going to meetings now. But yeah, last week, some of the listeners will know that we put out right at the end of the podcast, we said the first person to message us will get 20 quid, just to see how many people actually listening to the end. I think we can get the metrics actually, but yeah, anyway, we just did a little experiment. I had 3 people message me, but the thing is, they were all on the same day. So if anybody listened to it afterwards, I imagine they didn't bother. So we've either got 3 listeners that go right to the end, or we've got more who are a little bit more humble, or maybe they just don't need the 20 quid, which is
listening because it's genuinely interesting, I'm sure, not for 20 quid.
Yeah. So yeah, congratulations. I'll sort that 20 out to the first person who came in. Not Amber, because she has to listen to it for a job. So I'm not having that. Cool. So Sam, how's your week been? How are things faring up from your side of the business?
Very good. It's pretty crazy at the minute. Just nice and busy. Clients being really positive and coming back to, some of them full strength, some of them just getting going again after, coming back from furlough and stuff. But everyone genuinely is really optimistic, which has been great. And yeah, we've got some really exciting plans for the work we're doing for them, which is decent.
Awesome.
What about you?
Awesome. Yep, same. Obviously, we chat more than just this podcast a week for those that are listening thinking, do you not actually know this stuff? But yeah, so we're full steam ahead. A lot of people, particularly we're getting a good amount of new marketing inquiries as well as our existing clients kicking on now. So we're really fortunate. I feel extremely blessed to say that we've probably caught up to where we expected to be without coronavirus, which is a nice place to be. Lots of software inquiries as well, people looking at streamlining processes, which is going to be absolutely crucial. I think we covered that in a podcast previously, so if you haven't listened to it, have a look on our on the titles about I think something about processes. Some good value in that, and how we change processes for the better. So yeah, all good really. So I think this week we were going to, obviously one of the big challenges moving forward is generating new clients, more income. And you suggested a good topic that we look at asking for referrals. So why don't you just kick us off, Sam, on that?
Yeah, so I think obviously people can overthink how to win more business. Obviously we're a marketing agency, so we can help people with that. And people come to us thinking that they don't currently do any marketing, but I think everyone has a network to start with. And even if you're new to business or whatever it might be, generally you're going to have a network, previous contacts that you've been in touch with, friends, family, all this kind of stuff. So what we're going to look at is just how you can make the most of that network, how you can ask for referrals ultimately to grow your business. And it can sound too simple, but that's basically how we've grown the business. And you obviously started out, 10 years ago, pretty much from scratch, just with a network to work from.
Yeah, definitely. So, we'll go into that and how our business has developed. But why don't we just start with a few pointers around referrals? And I think there's a kind of, when people think about referrals, I think they think about BNI, because BNI is they're so focused on generating referrals, and that's and that's fine and that works for some people, but it shouldn't end there. That's not your be all and end all. Start with your existing customers. So Sam, it's hard to ask people for referrals. What approach would you take with your clients?
I mean, sometimes if you've got the relationship with certain clients, just a conversation with them, asking, is there anyone else that that would effectively benefit from working with us? It can just be an open conversation if you've got that relationship. Obviously, there's other things. So for certain, particularly products businesses, they do it through referrals a lot of the time, where it's like referral incentives. So, refer to a friend and get a certain percentage or whatever it might be. And you see that with certain businesses like estate agents or whatever it might be, recruitment agencies. They often have referral incentives. But for a business like ours, we've never really entertained things like that. It has generally either been word of mouth where someone's referred us without asking, or it's just been a quick chat with someone where we've been able to ask them, is there anyone else that you could point us in the direction of that might want to work with us or might benefit from working with us, and that's basically how we've kind of won more business that way, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, and I think there's means and ways. It doesn't always have to be a direct question. It can it can be a nice friendly note to say we've increased our resource in this area of the business. We're doing a great job for you, and that's the thing. You have to be doing a great job for the client. If you're doing a crap job, they're not going to refer anyone. So, we're doing a good job. We've had these results. Is there anybody that you think could benefit from that extra resource that we've put into the business? And then it's kind of a direct ask without it being without it coming across as a bit salesy. And that's our approach. I think sometimes in our business we've become we may be a bit guilty of being a little bit lazy on asking for referrals. We're very fortunate in that we get them, on the back of some of the good work that we've done. One of the things that has happened in our business is that it's happened very recently in the last 2 weeks, but it's happened consistently throughout our business, in that we've done a good piece of work and got some coverage, or we've released a nice video or done a certain campaign and it's had great results. And then one of the friends of that person that we've been doing the work for asks them directly, saying, who does that for you? And can you introduce us? So referrals can work both ways, but I do think it's important to put it into the minds of your clients that you are looking for referrals, that you do have capacity. When you're a business like ours, which has, we don't have hundreds of clients. We have a small number of clients that, are relatively high value. And sometimes those clients can worry that if you get distracted on other key accounts, their service is going to reduce. So I think it's important that you highlight that there is resource available. We're an agile business, so whilst we have a good number of staff now, approaching 20. The reality is that we've got access to another 20 in contractors that we trust. So that's giving that reassurance as well to clients can often help.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, a lot of the biggest and best clients that we've won over the last 5-10 years have come that way. Someone seeing something on social media that we've put out and who does that for you? So that they're asking each other. So who does your social media? And plus 24. Who did that video? Plus 24. Who did your website? And just by seeing the work we're putting out for different businesses, that's kind of spread itself. So by us doing good work, ultimately, it's spreading through word of mouth.
Yeah.
And I think anyone that delivers a good product or service, this is a good way for them to grow their business. It's ultimately do a good job, and you should win more work. And obviously, the relationships is another big part of that for us to then not only do good work, but if someone gets asked that question, who did your website? People are happy to refer us because we've got that good relationship with them as well. So I think that's kind of key thing. We're a marketing agency, but a lot of the business we've won is actually just by doing good work ourselves, not actually always through our own marketing efforts.
Yeah, I agree. So I think one of the ways that we have generated referral business is particularly back in the start, and we wanted to kind of touch base on this whole idea of networking. It was a very big part of the business when I first started. My network was very small when I set up in business, and so I needed to increase that network. And I think, that's another really important point to make when you're talking about referrals. You must have a large network in order to generate those referrals, because some of the referrals that we've won haven't come from clients. They've come from associates and people that we've networked with that have maybe ultimately become friends as well. But equally, they wouldn't refer people unless they knew we were doing a great job. So it's important to highlight the job that you're doing. So if you want to generate referrals, you've got to be doing a good job, and you've got to talk about the good job that you're doing with your clients. The best form of marketing is by celebrating your clients' successes. So that's one point there. But going back to the idea of networking, it was a big part of the business. And you could actually say today that from those initial, the couple of years of really hard networking that I did, maybe 3 years even, where I was at networking meetings 4 or 5 times a week, and I was organizing the networking meetings. And then we evolved. You came on board and we started hosting our own events, which was just another form of networking. And you could easily say that, if I went through our client list, I bet I could work backwards for all of them and find a route that it came from, right back from those early days of networking. But I did first. Well, let's talk about effective networking then, Sam, because there's but then I also want to talk about networking that's not physical, as in not groups of people getting together, because that can be quite daunting for some people. So effective networking then for me is not just about on the day where you're doing the networking. It's much more beyond that. Give us your top tips, because you've been a prolific networker as well in the past.
Well, I think it's really easy when you start networking to get distracted by the numbers, and that's the number of like business cards you can collect. I think we've all seen it. If you've been to a networking event, there's someone in that room that is literally there just to collect business cards, and they want to go home with the biggest stack, and that's them thinking they've had a successful day, because they've met the most amount of people. But they haven't really met them, because that person that they've met has no clue who they are, what they do, why they should work with them. So yes, it's important to have that wide network, but I think it's much more important to have the deeper relationship. So if you've got limited time for networking, focus on actually building stronger relationships rather than building more relationships. And that's, when you're in the room. So if you are networking at something like BNI or 4N, whatever it might be, yes, you want to get to know everyone in the room, but ultimately pick out the key people in that room that are going to actually benefit your business, who works in, similar circles to you, who could refer you to the right kind of people. And rather than trying to meet every single person in that room just to get your numbers up, focus on the key people that are actually going to benefit you, and spend a lot more time getting to know them. Go for a coffee, follow up with them, and have, regular calls or conversations, just to make sure that you're actually up to date with that person, and they know where you're at in your business. They know how to promote you ultimately. So yeah, I think that's the key thing. Don't focus on just getting your numbers up. Focus on building relationships more than anything.
Yeah, I'd completely second that, in that, it needs to be a focused effort. People need to be aware not to confuse that with hard sell as well, though. It's really important that when you go out networking, for me, the first thing that you should do is what can I do for other people, and give as much as you possibly can without expecting anything back. And that whole book by Gary V, Thank You Economy, it's kind of that kind of theme where, it's very empathetic. It's about giving your 100% effort in helping other people, and in return, eventually that does reap benefits. And we've seen that. And my approach to networking was all that. How can I help you? I think yours was as well. when you were networking, and ultimately that's led to millions of pounds worth of business, over the years, which is incredible, really. When you talk about the majority of our business coming from some of those early networking events, never in a million years did I expect the referrals from some of the people that I got them from. But it was because I was, out there trying to help people.
And some of that helps. So BNI, for example, their whole thing is around getting other people referrals, and then that'll come back to you. So people will reciprocate. And obviously, I was starting out in business. I was fresh out of uni. I didn't have a network of people to refer to. I could get someone a new boiler, but I couldn't refer 100 grand worth of business to anyone, for example. So I couldn't necessarily give business, but I could give advice. I could do presentations for people, run free training sessions and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of the early days of me in business was proving the value I could offer people. And obviously the events we ran was free seminars. And again, it was giving away snippets of information, free content that ultimately grew our brand awareness, but proved our credibility, proved that we knew what we were talking about. And that's where a lot of our work came from, off those training sessions and workshops and things like that we ran, because people come along, they see what you're talking about, and they want to pay you to do it for them ultimately.
Yeah.
So everyone's got something to give, and that's, I think, one of the key things. Even if you're starting out in business, you've all got something to offer someone. It doesn't have to be loads of money or loads of business. It can just be advice and support.
Yeah, I agree. So let's move on from that, because networking isn't just about going to groups where there's lots of people also looking for business and to grow their networks. There's a lot of people that don't do any networking because they think that the only networking you can do is by going to a group and standing up for a minute. And, that the thought of standing up in front of 20, 30 people, and saying what you do terrifies them. And that's, one thing I would say is I'm an advocate of still trying networking, even if you're that person, because it is terrifying to begin with, but it gets so much easier. And some of my presentation skills that I deliver in boardrooms today comes from the practice that I did in networking groups, where you'd stand up for a minute and present for a minute. If you've only got a minute to, sell yourself, you become very good at getting your message across quickly. So, and then doing the little presentation slots and things like that. But let's put that to one side. Networking is far more than just the group. So networking is staying in touch with people. LinkedIn's a great tool for that, but it doesn't have to be LinkedIn. It can be whatever format you want. And I think, people forget the value of putting in a phone call every month or two to people that you've networked with in the past that you've not seen for a while. And so I think that's, staying in touch. And here's the crux: keeping a good database of your network. It's impossible to remember your whole network. It's absolutely impossible. So you need to have a database and keep track of when you've stayed in touch with people. Keep track of when the key dates are, when the birthday is, so that you can send them a little personalized message, when what business they're in and what they're looking for, so that, and if that comes up, you can just have a look in your database and think, who's the perfect person I can give this to. And I think that's probably the biggest value in networking, and I think why we've been successful in networking, because I used to give this message when I was networking to people and giving advice. It's not about the meeting today. It's about every instance of contact that you have from that day forward. We have clients now who I've become, friends with, and whether they're clients or not, I will stay in touch with them for the rest of my working life, and maybe even after I've stopped working, if I ever stop working, which is unlikely. But that's networking. Networking isn't about the group. There's networking groups, and then there's proper networking, which is building your network, staying in touch, giving as much value to that group of people as you possibly can. So I think that would be my biggest advice on networking. It isn't just about the group, and you generate referrals by giving first.
Yeah, I think that sums it up nicely.
Yeah. So if anybody, I mean, let's just recap then, because we've been waffling on for a little while. So generating referrals in your business, which is really important at the minute. Firstly, ask for it. Find a way to ask that is less selly. That's a new word. I'm going to keep that one, Sam. Find a way to kind of ask for that referral, but make it a softer approach, saying you've got some extra resource in this area. Do you know anybody who'd benefit from that resource, et cetera, et cetera. And you never know, the client might turn around and say, oh, actually, we were thinking about getting some more work in that area, and so if you don't ask, you don't get. And then obviously building up your network to generate referrals. In order to generate referrals from people you don't work with, they have to see your results. So you need to talk about your results to your network through LinkedIn, through your broadcast on whatever social media platforms you're on. And then obviously you're staying in touch with that network. And networking obviously isn't just about the groups that you go to. It's about staying in touch with people, touching base with them, and seeing what you can do to help them. And would you have anything to add?
No, I only that now is a great time for that. So, it's as good as time as any to re-engage with people. Everyone needs that support. I'm pretty sure everyone will welcome that friendly call just to see how you're doing. So yeah, the tough time that a lot of businesses are coming out of now, or starting to come out of, I think now's a great time to get this going and kick on, really.
Cool. Good stuff. Well, that's, I hope, some value added there. I had a couple of particular inquiries about networking and people who, I think we mentioned networking in a previous podcast, and a few people saying they don't do it enough because they don't like it. So hopefully that's given them some inspiration to either start or look to network in another way.
Yeah, and then anyone that kind of has been networking in the past or is familiar with it, would be interested to kind of know your tips. Is there anything else that you'd recommend doing, and how to build relationships ultimately?
Bro. Nice one, Sam. I will see you next week for Eat, Sleep, Business.
Nice one. See you later.